Before we begin, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. And if you watched part 1, drop a comment below telling us what you think happens next. Now, let's dive in. The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor. Amina's eyes snapped open, her heart hammering against her ribs as she registered the sound. For 3 seconds, she was back in that apartment, Marcus's shadow filling the doorway. Her breath came in short gasps as her hand reached across the bed, finding only cold sheets, empty. She threw off the covers, her bare feet hitting the floor as panic clawed at her chest. The penthouse stretched before her in pre-dawn darkness, every shadow a potential threat. 10 years of survival instinct didn't disappear with a wedding ring. Then she saw him. Tyler stood on the balcony, his silhouette framed against the Seattle skyline. The city sparkled below like scattered diamonds, oblivious to the storm that had just passed. Through their lives. Relief flooded through her so intensely her knees weakened. He turned as she approached, and she saw the phone pressed to his ear, his jaw tight with tension. Not relaxation, not peaceful reflection. Business. "I don't care what time it is," Tyler said into the phone, his voice carrying that edge she recognized from boardroom battles. "I want every detail in the next hour." He ended the call as Amina stepped onto the balcony, immediately pulling her into his arms. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to wake you." "You didn't. I heard something break. My hand had an argument with the glass." He showed her a small cut on his palm, already cleaned. "The glass won." Amina took his hand, examining the cut with gentle fingers. "What's wrong?" Tyler hesitated, and that pause told her everything. In the 3 days since their wedding, she'd watched him gradually relax, the constant vigilance finally easing from his shoulders. Now it was back, tension radiating through every muscle. "Marcus Reeves was attacked in prison last night," Tyler said quietly. "Someone stabbed him 6 times in the recreation yard. He's in critical condition." The name hit her like a physical blow. Amina's hand tightened on his. "Is he alive?" "Barely." Tyler's eyes searched hers. Someone didn't want him testifying against his remaining partners. The implications crashed over her in waves. Marcus wasn't the end point. He was a thread, and someone had just cut it before anyone could trace it back to its source. Who would do that? Amina whispered, though part of her already knew the answer. Someone with more power than Marcus? Someone who stood to lose everything if he talked. "That's what I intend to find out." Tyler pulled her closer, his chin resting on the top of her head. "I've ordered full security protocols. The penthouse, your studio space, anywhere you might go. No arguments." Amina wanted to protest, to say she was fine, that she refused to live in fear anymore, but she'd learned the hard way that pride was a luxury survival couldn't afford. "I thought this was over," she said instead, her voice barely audible. "So did I." They stood together as dawn broke over Seattle, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Beautiful and deceptive, like everything else in their world. Danger didn't always announce itself with violence. Sometimes it waited until you finally felt safe, then struck when your guard was down. 3 days later, Amina stood before the construction site that would become the Amina Hart Center for Urban Innovation. Camera crews surrounded her, reporters shouting questions as Tyler's press team tried to maintain order. This was supposed to be a celebration, a groundbreaking ceremony marking the beginning of something beautiful. Instead, it felt like standing on a target. "Ms. Hart, where have you been for the past 10 years? A reporter in the front row thrust a microphone toward her. Why the sudden reappearance now? Amina had prepared for this question, had rehearsed her answer with Tyler's PR team. But something in the reporter's tone made her pause. This wasn't curiosity. This was accusation. "I had personal reasons for maintaining privacy," Amina said carefully, "but I'm grateful for the opportunity to contribute to this city's development through sustainable architecture and urban innovation." "Personal reasons?" Another reporter picked up the thread. "Is it true you disappeared after being connected to several fraudulent business dealings? That Tyler Davenport is funding this center as part of a settlement?" The lie was so audacious, so carefully constructed, that for a moment Amina couldn't respond. She felt Tyler stiffen beside her, his hand finding the small of her back in support. "That's absolutely false," Tyler said, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Ms. Hart is an acclaimed architect whose work speaks for itself. These baseless accusations are. Mr. Davenport, isn't it true that you and Ms. Hart were romantically involved before her disappearance?" Some might say this center is less about urban development and more about personal guilt. The questions kept coming, each one more pointed than the last. Someone had fed these reporters a story, carefully crafted lies designed to destroy Amina's credibility before the center even broke ground. And more than that, designed to paint Tyler as a foolish billionaire blinded by old feelings. The press conference ended in controlled chaos. Tyler's security team ushered them to his car, while his PR director promised follow-up statements, but the damage was done. By the time they reached the penthouse, social media was already erupting with speculation. Someone planned this, Tyler said, pacing his office with dangerous energy. Every question was designed to undermine both your expertise and my judgment. Amina sat on the leather sofa, her hands trembling despite her best efforts to appear calm. They're trying to separate us, make you look foolish for trusting me. They're trying to make you disappear again. Tyler stopped pacing, turning to face her. Someone wants you silent and discredited. The question is, who benefits from that? Before Amina could answer, her phone buzzed. Unknown number? She almost dismissed it, but something made her open the message. You took something that was never yours. 5 words that sent ice through her veins. Tyler was at her side immediately, reading over her shoulder. His expression darkened. Forward that to my security chief. Now. Tyler, what if they're right? The words burst out before Amina could stop them. Not about fraud or any of that, but about me being a liability. Your reputation, your company, everything you've built, it's all at risk now because of me. Amina, maybe I should step away from the project. Let someone else design the center. I can consult from behind the scenes, keep my name off everything official until this blows over. Absolutely not. The force of his response startled her. Tyler knelt in front of the sofa, taking her hands in his. That's exactly what they want. You disappear again, they win again. I won't let that happen. You could lose everything. I already lost everything once when you vanished. Tyler's voice cracked with emotion. Money, reputation, companies. I can rebuild all of that. But I can't lose you again because you don't believe you deserve to be here. Amina pulled her hands away, standing abruptly. You don't understand. This isn't about deserving. This is about protecting what you've worked for. I won't be the reason Tyler Davenport becomes a cautionary tale about letting the past cloud your judgment. My judgment is crystal clear. Tyler rose to face her. My judgment tells me that the woman I love is trying to sacrifice herself again to protect everyone else. My judgment tells me that someone powerful enough to silence Marcus Reeves and plant stories with multiple news outlets doesn't want you stepping into the light. And my judgment tells me that we don't run. This isn't running. It's being smart. It's being scared. The words hung between them like a challenge. Amina felt anger flash through her, hot and defensive. You're damn right I'm scared. I spent 10 years scared, Tyler. 10 years looking over my shoulder, jumping at shadows, building a life I could abandon at a moment's notice. And now, just when I thought I could finally breathe, it's starting again. So yes, I'm scared. I'm terrified that loving you means destroying you. Tyler's expression softened, but he didn't back down. And I'm terrified that you'll let fear make you disappear again. Not physically this time, but emotionally. That you'll convince yourself you're protecting me by becoming invisible. Maybe that's what it takes. No. Tyler's voice was quiet but absolute. That's what trauma tells you it takes. But I'm telling you that we face this together, or we don't face it at all. Amina turned away, pressing her palms against the floor-to-ceiling windows. The city stretched below, oblivious to the battle being waged in this penthouse. She'd spent so long surviving that she'd forgotten how to actually live, how to stand and fight instead of hide and run. Marcus threatened you, didn't he? Tyler's voice came from behind her, gentler now. Back then, before you disappeared, he threatened to hurt me if you didn't cooperate. Amina's reflection in the glass showed the truth before she could hide it. Yes. What did he want? This was the confession she'd been avoiding, the final piece of her past she'd kept locked away. Amina took a deep breath. Your business plans. The early designs for what became Davenport Innovations' flagship projects. Marcus knew I had access to them, that you'd shown me everything because you trusted me. He wanted me to steal them. Tyler was silent for a long moment. And you refused. Of course I refused. Amina turned to face him, needing him to see the truth in her eyes. That's why he marked me as unfinished business. I didn't just walk away from him, Tyler. I walked away knowing he'd come after me because I chose protecting you over protecting myself. Understanding dawned across Tyler's face, followed by something that looked like pain. You disappeared to keep me safe. And to keep myself alive. Those weren't separate things. Amina wrapped her arms around herself. But here's what I never told you. Marcus didn't just want the plans for himself. He kept mentioning investors, plural, people who'd paid good money for insider information. He was working for someone, Tyler. Someone who wanted to know what you were building before you built it. Corporate espionage? On a scale I didn't understand at the time. I was 24, scared, and in way over my head. All I knew was that if I gave him what he wanted, you'd be destroyed. And if I didn't, he'd destroy me. Amina's voice cracked. So I ran. I thought if I disappeared, if there was nothing to leverage, he'd leave you alone. Tyler closed the distance between them, cupping her face in his hands. You saved my company. I abandoned you. You survived. He pressed his forehead to hers. And now we know this was never about revenge. It's about money. Someone invested in stealing my work 10 years ago, and when Marcus went to prison, they lost their inside connection. But now you're back, with your name attached to a major project, and they're afraid. Afraid of what? That you remember more than they're comfortable with, that you could identify them if you thought about it hard enough. Tyler pulled back, his eyes sharp with focus. Who else knew about the investors? Did Marcus mention names? Amina racked her memory, trying to pull details from a time she'd spent years trying to forget. He was careful, but once, when he was on the phone, I heard him say something about the board member who made the introduction. I thought he meant his board, but what if he meant mine? The possibility hung between them like a lit fuse. Tyler's board of directors consisted of people who'd been with him since the beginning, investors and advisors who'd helped build Davenport Innovations from a startup to an empire. The idea that one of them could be a traitor was almost incomprehensible. Almost. I need to make some calls, Tyler said, already moving toward his desk. And you need to write down everything you remember, every conversation with Marcus, every detail, no matter how small. For the next 2 days, Tyler's security team worked with law enforcement to dig through 10 years of records. Amina spent hours with investigators, reliving memories she'd tried to bury, and slowly, a picture emerged. Someone had been systematically leaking information from Davenport Innovations for over a decade. Small things at first, easy to miss in the chaos of rapid growth, but the leaks had continued even after Marcus's arrest, which meant the source was still active. Tyler called an emergency board meeting, his face grim as he prepared for battle. I'm going to set a trap, he told Amina before leaving. The leak will expose itself. How? By giving them something too valuable to resist. Amina watched him go, fear and pride warring in her chest. This was Tyler in his element, the strategic mind that had built an empire now focused on protecting it. But she also knew that the person they were hunting had already killed once to keep their secrets. Marcus's attack had been a message. Talk and you die. The board meeting lasted 6 hours. Amina waited in the penthouse, unable to work, unable to rest. Her phone stayed silent, which was somehow worse than constant updates. When Tyler finally returned, his expression was unreadable. Did it work? We'll know by tomorrow morning. Tyler poured himself a drink, his movements carefully controlled. I announced that the Urban Innovation Center would include a subsidiary, component, a tech incubator backed by Davenport Innovations, with you as the creative director. All new ventures would be registered under a partnership between us, combining architecture and technology. But we never discussed that. Exactly. It's bait. Tyler took a long drink. I leaked false information that the partnership agreements included intellectual property transfers, that any ideas developed through the center would partially revert to you as co-creator. For someone who's been stealing my work for years, that's a nightmare. They'll try to block it. By doing what? That's what we're about to find out. The answer came at 4 a.m. Tyler's phone exploded with alerts, dragging them both from restless sleep. His security chief's voice came through the speaker, tight with urgency. We've got movement. Someone just attempted to access the secured server where the partnership agreements are stored. They used credentials belonging to Richard Sutton. Richard Sutton, board member since the beginning, one of Tyler's first investors, a man who'd been at Tyler's side for every major decision, who'd celebrated every victory and weathered every crisis. A friend. Where is he now? Tyler was already dressing, his face hard with betrayal. His office. He's trying to transfer the files to an external drive. Law enforcement is standing by, waiting for your signal. Tell them to move in. Amina dressed quickly, following Tyler to his car. She expected him to go to the office to confront Sutton himself. Instead, he drove to the construction site for the Urban Innovation Center. Dawn was breaking as they arrived, painting the skeletal framework in shades of gold. Why are we here? Amina asked. Because this is what he tried to steal. Tyler took her hand, leading her through the construction barriers to the center of the site. Not just business plans or technology. This. The future you were trying to build before Marcus took it from you. Sutton funded Marcus's operation, probably introduced him to you through some carefully orchestrated coincidence. He wanted access to your ideas, your designs, the architectural innovations that would have made my projects revolutionary. How do you know? Because I went back through the records. Every project that incorporated your design concepts, every innovation that made Davenport Innovations what it is today, Sutton fought to have them patented under company ownership rather than attributed to specific creators. At the time, I thought he was protecting the company. Now I realize he was erasing you. Amina stared at the construction site, seeing it with new eyes. This center wasn't just a building. It was her voice, her vision, finally given form after 10 years of silence. They tried to make me disappear, she said slowly. They tried to steal your brilliance and erase your existence, but you survived. Tyler turned her to face him. And now you get to choose. We can keep this. Quiet. Settle with Sutton privately. Let him fade away while you work behind the scenes. Or we can go public. Your name, your story, everything. No more hiding. The choice stretched before her like a crossroads. Safety in shadows or risk in the light. Amina thought about the girl she'd been at 24, so full of ideas and enthusiasm before fear had taught her to make herself small. She thought about the woman she'd become, shaped by survival but diminished by silence. And she thought about the future she wanted to build. I didn't survive 10 years of fear to live small now, Amina said, her voice steady. Let's do it. All of it. My name, my story, everything they tried to steal. Tyler's smile was fierce with pride. Are you sure? Terrified, but sure. The press conference was scheduled for that afternoon. Tyler's team worked frantically to prepare statements, coordinate with law enforcement, and manage the narrative. Richard Sutton had been arrested attempting to destroy evidence, his decades-long scheme exposed in the harsh light of day. But first, Tyler and Amina stood together in his office, finalizing the details. His lawyers had drawn up new partnership agreements, real ones this time. The Amina Hart Center for Urban Innovation would move forward with her as lead visionary architect and co-owner, her name front and center where it belonged. The press is going to have questions, Tyler's PR director warned. About your disappearance, about Marcus Reeves, about everything. Let them ask. Amina's hands were shaking, but her voice was calm. I'm done hiding from my own story. The conference room was packed with reporters, cameras, and curious onlookers. Amina felt the weight of hundreds of eyes as she took her place beside Tyler at the podium. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to fade back into comfortable obscurity. Instead, she stepped forward. My name is Amina Hart, she began, her voice carrying across the room. 10 years ago, I was forced to choose between my dreams and my survival. I chose survival, and I've spent the last decade believing that was the end of my story. But I was wrong. She told them about Marcus, about the threats, about disappearing to protect both herself and Tyler. She spoke about the theft of her designs, the systematic erasure of her contributions, the way Richard Sutton had orchestrated everything to steal intellectual property while remaining invisible. They tried to silence me, Amina said, her voice growing stronger with each word. They tried to rewrite my past, to make me believe I was nothing more than a liability to be managed. But I survived. And now I'm going to build something that can never be stolen or erased. The questions came fast after that, but Amina met each one head on. Yes, she'd been afraid. Yes, she'd made mistakes. Yes, she'd spent years running from shadows. But she was done running. When the conference finally ended, Tyler found her in his office staring out at the city she'd once fled. How do you feel? He asked. Exposed, vulnerable, absolutely terrified. Amina turned to him, tears streaming down her face, and more free than I've felt in 10 years. Tyler pulled her close, and she felt the tension finally drain from his body. This wasn't the end of their struggles. There would be legal battles, media scrutiny, and endless complications. But they would face it together, in the light, with nothing left to hide. That evening, they returned to the construction site one more time. The setting sun painted the skeletal framework in shades of orange and gold, a promise of what was to come. Amina stood at the center of what would become her greatest work, Tyler's hand warm in hers. "I used to dream about this," she said quietly. "Before everything fell apart, I dreamed about building something that would matter, that would last. This is just the beginning." Tyler gestured at the construction site at the city beyond. "You're going to change how people think about urban spaces, about sustainability, about what's possible, and this time, everyone will know it's you." Amina looked at him, this man who'd refused to let her disappear twice, who'd risked everything to pull her back into the light. "I'm still scared." "Good. It means you care." Tyler cupped her face, his thumb wiping away a stray tear. "But you don't have to be brave alone anymore." They stood together as night fell over Seattle, no longer hiding from their past or their future. The city sparkled below them, full of possibility and promise. Somewhere out there, other people were fighting their own battles, making their own impossible choices between safety and authenticity. But here, in this moment, Amina Hart chose herself. She chose visibility over invisibility, courage over comfort, a future built on truth rather than fear. It wouldn't be easy. Nothing worthwhile ever was. But for the first time in 10 years, she could see a path forward that didn't require her to be smaller, quieter, or less than who she was meant to be. "Thank you," she whispered, though the words felt inadequate for everything he'd done, everything he'd risked. "For what?" "For refusing to let me disappear." Tyler smiled, pulling her closer as the first stars appeared overhead. "Always. In this life and every other, I'll always find you." They stayed until the construction crew arrived for the night shift, until the site came alive with light and activity and the promise of tomorrow. The Amina Hart Center for Urban Innovation would take 2 years to complete, but it would stand as a testament to resilience, to survival, to the truth that some things refuse to be erased. And as Amina walked away from the site with Tyler's hand in hers, she understood something fundamental about her own story. They'd tried to steal her voice, her vision, her very existence. They tried to rewrite her past and erase her future. But some love doesn't just survive. It builds something no one can tear down. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful tales of resilience and redemption. Drop a comment below telling us about a time you chose courage over comfort. And if you haven't watched part 1 yet, check it out now to see how this incredible journey began. Your support means everything, so thank you for being here. Until next time, keep fighting for your truth.